Prime Minister Modi has hit yet another major political milestone. He has completed 11 years and 60 days as Prime Minister, surpassing Indira Gandhi's record to be the Prime Minister with the second longest unbroken stint in India. As the Prime Minister hits this major milestone, we'll be looking at brand Modi. We'll also be looking at the oft-cited parallels between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to separate fact from fiction. And we'll be talking to the author of the Conscience Network, senior journalist and author Sugata Srinvasraju, as we look at the Modi years, past, present, and future. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. On the program today, we look at a major political milestone for Prime Minister Modi. Mr. Modi, as I just mentioned, has completed 11 years and 60 days as Prime Minister. Modi, as the Indian Express wrote today, is the first Prime Minister born post-independence and is now the longest-serving non-Congress Prime Minister. He has also surpassed Indira Gandhi's record to be the Prime Minister with the second longest unbroken stint. As we look at brand Modi, we look both in the past, we look at the present, and we also look at the future. And as Modi surpasses Indira Gandhi's record, we look at the oft-cited parallels between Narendra Modi and Indira Gandhi. Are they really similar in leadership and persona, as some argue, or are they, in fact, quite different? Joining us on the program now is the author of the Conscience Network, Sugata Srinvasraju. You've seen him often on our programs, veteran journalist, author, prolific author, in fact, who's just completed, or rather released, his new book, The Conscience Network. If we can show you the cover now, that specifically looks at in a sense, the resistance to Indira Gandhi's emergency years, those who spoke, as it were, from their conscience. So do pick up a copy if you haven't. Sugata, thank you so much for joining us. And let's talk about this major milestone. It's quite interesting. In fact, the Indian Express today makes for a very interesting read with a series of well-researched statistics talking about how now Modi has only Nehru's record to surpass. Nehru was, of course, Prime Minister for 6,131 days, including the day he died before completing his term. So talk a little bit about this milestone.
Thank you, Barkha. Thank you for having me yet again. And see, this statistical record that Modi has surpassed of Indira Gandhi, is a statistical record. In terms of, I'm not someone who would try to juxtapose the 11 years of Indira Gandhi with the 11 years of Modi, because they are very, very, very different years for India. That decade between 66 and 77, when she lost the elections, was a very different India from the India that Modi has been able to rule between 2014 and now. So there is only a statistical comparison that can be made, but in terms of substance, in terms of what India was then and what India is now, and what Indira Gandhi inherited in 1966 when Shastri died, and she went in for an election in 67 and then consolidated her power in 71. That phase of Indian politics and the phase now, 2014 to now, are entirely different. In fact, Modi did not have to struggle for the 11 years that he has been in power as much as Indira Gandhi had to. Indira Gandhi, she had to fight on multiple fronts. If I can, even if I can sort of, list a couple of them. One was the economic front. India was not what it is today. When Modi is trying to peg India as the fifth largest economy, fourth largest economy, third largest economy, he's just trying to look at the kind of wealth of India and the kind of the flourish of India now. But Indira Gandhi, right from the day she became Prime Minister, had to go with a begging bowl to Lyndon Johnson, asking for wheat, the PL 480 scheme. And, she needed aid from America for everybody in India to be able to eat. And, if you look at a little earlier, before she took over, Shastri was making a call to Indians, asking them to skip a meal a day. And Indira Gandhi, when there was a paddy or a rice crisis in Kerala, she said, I will not eat rice for a week. That was the kind of hand to mouth existence, or ship to mouth, as they said very famously. That was the kind of India. But today's India, the Modi India, is far more stable, has seen a great deal of flourish. It's wealthy India. It's a far more stable India, with a stable middle class, with a kind of positioning globally, which is far, far different from what it was between 66 and 77. In fact, I should tell you about this. Kissinger,
Hmm.
in one of his notes, says about Nehru and Indira Gandhi, but more in the context of Indira Gandhi meeting Nixon. She says this father and daughter duo,
Hmm.
they try to make this moral judgment about America because they're extremely weak. It's a weak nation's way of surmounting their inaccuracies and inadequacies to sort of judge America for what it is. So, and also don't forget, Bharka, it was a great period of Cold War. There were only two great powers operating, and Indira Gandhi was trying to negotiate between those two. But in the case of Modi, only in the last 1 year has there been some kind of quandary about, should you be with the rest of the world, or should you be with America? How much of America and the trade deal will work out for India? After Trump has come, there has been a certain kind of upheaval. But otherwise, Modi has been extraordinarily lucky that that he has not had to face the kind of problems that Indira faced. So I just spoke about the economic thing, but there are others as well. As we can talk as we go ahead.
It's one thing to say that the context in which Indira Gandhi was prime minister was very different from Modi, and his challenges have only come in the last year. But a number of political commentators say if Modi has a benchmark of leadership, it is in fact Indira Gandhi. Others say no, they're totally different. Do you see parallels? I mean, do you? Of course, they both are sort of type A personalities. There is that sense of the individual being at the center of the power structure. Uh, Perhaps very different from Vajpayee, seemed to be a consensus builder. Manmohan Singh seemed to be overly sort of non-individualistic in his leadership style, except for when it came to one or two of his pet issues like the nuclear deal. Do you see those parallels between Modi and Indira, or do you not see them?
There are parallels and there are no parallels, Barkha.
Mhm.
Both of it, you can argue from both ends. See,
Yeah.
between 66 and 69, Indira Gandhi was seen to be a very indecisive and confused leader, right? Between 66 and 69. 69 is the turning point when she consolidates power. In the sense, the party undergoes a split. She makes a clear break from her father's Congress party, and she starts building her own political kind of journey. So 69 on, and with the consolidation of power in 71, that was huge. The kind of mandate that she got in 71 was huge. And 67 mandate, Barka, was the first time post independence the Congress party went under the 300 mark. And if you saw the Jansang, the Swatantra Party, the Samyukta Socialist Party, all of them were in double digits. And she was being checkmated by the opposition exactly like the way, or I mean, I wouldn't say that opposition was far more, an opposition of worthy contemporaries. Now Modi does not even face that kind of an opposition. You had a Lohia, you had a Madhu Limaye, you had a George Fernandez, you had A.K. Gopalan, lots of other people. So that was and Balraj Madhok and all these people were around, and Rajaji Swatantra Party had got 45. It was the second largest party, and they had broken away from Nehru's Congress, if you remember. So the 69, until the 69 phase, Indira Gandhi, if you also remember, Lohia, or there is a confusion whether it was Lohia or Madhulimaye. They used a phrase to describe Indira Gandhi, which I think was a kind of sexist infantilization, which is they called her a Gungi Gudiya.
Gungi Godia, yeah.
So that was the weak Indira Gandhi that was being perceived till then. We don't have such a thing of perception about Modi. He has been a strong leader from day one. He has been perceived to be a person who has, consolidated power in his hands from day one. And he has been inevitable to his party and his ideological machinery right from the beginning. It was not so with Indira Gandhi. So the parallels don't work. Indira Gandhi had to work a lot more. And again, it is only after 69 that if you go by what her, I write about this in the book, if you go by what her own niece, cousin, sorry, not niece, Nayantara Sehgal wrote, Nayantara Sehgal starts speaking about the messiness of a big leader that she was trying to become. And it is only after that, if you look at whatever ails India today in terms of democracy, if you're talking about media, if you're talking about judiciary, if you're talking about bureaucracy and all that, all of that started with Indira Gandhi consolidating power in 1971, when these ideas of when centralized bureaucracy, committed bureaucracy, committed judiciary, committed media, all of that started coming in, and the party organization became an extension of the personality, which is exactly what you see now, or Modi is accused of a similar thing. But all of that happened after 5 years, after Indira Gandhi had broken Pakistan, Bangladesh had been created. It's only in that phase that
Hmm.
Indira Gandhi looked a little assertive. But still, she was presiding over an economically penurious India. It is not the Modi India at all. Even see, in fact, a lot of the origins of the emergency decision, besides the big Jagmohan Sinha case and she being disqualified, the Allahabad case, all of that aside, if you look at it structurally, the emergency decision also happens because India is in an economic crisis. And the diaspora, which I'm looking at, and the resistance of the diaspora in the book, my book is entirely based in the United States. I'm trying to
Yeah.
look at how the resistance was built
Yeah.
abroad to her emergency. Even there is a kind of development dialogue that is happening. Their idea of development is democracy has to be stable so that you can spread the fruits of development easily. And if Indira Gandhi subverts democracy, then development becomes a casualty. That is the kind of argument. You see something very similar happening now. And also the great concern about federalism.
Hmm.
Indira Gandhi not wanting state legislatures to act independently of the central perspective on laws or legislations or whatever. That concern also existed. So there are a lot of things that we talk about the media, for instance. Not the new media, but then the conventional media, the collapse of the conventional media. You will not believe, Barkha, if you just read some of the commentary from that time, the words that were being used, fascist overtones,
Hmm.
authoritarianism, dictatorship. In fact, T.N. Cowell, India's ambassador to the United States between 73 and 76, in fact, even does a lecture on, is Indira Gandhi a dictator? And then
Yeah.
starts speaking about how she's better than Nehru. So things like that. I mean, that kind of psychophancy, the kind of psychophantic culture, the bureaucratic surrender, all that is being spoken of now by Modi critics, or some may want to even call it Congress propaganda. You see
Hmm.
all of that being done by the socialists when Indira Gandhi came to power. So you can speak of parallels. You can sort of also say
I know
that.
totally, and it also tells you that politics tends to go around in circles and revolving doors. And today's sort of champions of democracies were yesterday's executors of emergency, and
Yes,
so on. In quotes for both things. I
yes,
mean, I tend to personally be very wary of these big labels
yeah, yeah,
for people, because we have to remember that in the end, the voter of India has the last word, and that's where our
absolutely.
democracy lies. But
Right.
I want to come now to this milestone for Prime Minister Modi. If you were to look at the brand today, do you think it's evolved, changed fundamentally at all? Because, for example, if you look at Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the process of governance moved Vajpayee to the center. Many say Modi has been such a strong, electorally unchallenged leader that he has moved the country center right, the public sentiment center right. So it is not government that has changed him, but he who has changed the country. Do you see it like that, or do you see it as a symbiotic thing where the process of governance has changed Modi, and in turn, Modi has changed politics?
Barka, there's a fundamental difference between Vajpayee and Modi, because Vajpayee was leading a coalition government. And if you look at what happened in in 96, 98, and 99, when they had there was three elections back to back. Vajpayee was leading a very fragile coalition, and Vajpayee had been groomed in politics in the Nehruvian era. So
Yeah.
Vajpayee was trying to, I wouldn't say imitate or trying to placate or please or whatever, but then his poles of reference, his points of reference was the Nehruvian India, right? And similarly, he did not look so much at Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was someone, he of course denied it many times. He said, I never called Indira Gandhi Durga. He issued clarifications, but that fell on deaf ears. But then
Yeah.
he grew up in a very different India with different points of reference politically, and so we cannot exactly see that continuation in Modi. Modi is certainly not a consensus builder, because both Indira Gandhi and Modi had absolute majorities. So the way you look at the politics, your subordinates, your colleagues, your contemporaries is entirely different when you are a dominant single party kind of a system. So Modi, with the brand Modi, the other question, the most important question that you asked is, has Modi, altered over these 11 years? Has he changed? I
Yeah.
think he has been able to survive in power only because he's been pragmatic and has evolved. See, he is not the Modi. See, when he came to power, Barkha, you and I and all of our colleagues were speaking about how extreme right Modi is. But in one of your shows, I think I spoke about how Modi is the new center of Indian politics. So you're now very interestingly labeling him as center right, which was something that you would have given to a congressman. Say 30 years ago or 40 years ago, they were not center left. They were, see, Govind Ballabh Pant or Malviya or all
Yeah.
of these people were center right, and they were not socialists. And the socialists had split from the Congress, moved away. With JP deciding not to do any
Mm.
politics and be part of the Sarvodaya movement. So Modi has not been ideologically someone who's been doctrinaire in the last 11 years. He has responded to reality. He has responded to. He has changed. He has undergone a huge transformation. The Modi in 2014, although his numbers were bigger then, and then in 2019, the Modi of today, I think, has expanded his footprint in a lot of minds. He's more acceptable, quote unquote, more acceptable as a prime minister, as a leader, because people have also seen that nothing major has gone wrong in 11 years. No, it's not that India has, has been dumped and gone into a crisis or something else has happened. Yes, people see a certain kind of stability, and I think the ordinary person, the layman, has a great idea of this. The stability notion is very, very important, and I think he satisfies that stability quotient extremely well. In fact, much more than Indira Gandhi. I would rate him much higher than Indira Gandhi, because Indira Gandhi was always subverting her own kind of thing,
Mm.
rules and regulations. And also, Indira Gandhi had to suffer a comparison. See, Indira Gandhi had a tradition. She came from the Gandhian movement. Her father was Nehru. She grew up with MK Gandhi around. So she was always compared in the West. In fact, I write a whole lot of pages in my book about how the West, tried to make a difference between that Gandhi and this Gandhi, and how she was looked at how her father was always compared. And in fact, in 60, after 69, when she's being constantly accused of moving away, swerving away, she makes a statement. She says, I am not my father. My father was a saint who strayed into politics, but I am a different person. So that is the kind of Modi that you also see now, where he's saying, I am not what the RSS has produced. I am not what the BJP produced. I have become a leader in my own right, and I have evolved. So
Mm.
I think it's we have to credit him with that thing.
That is a very interesting point. Let's talk about the RSS. You see, Indira, you say, had to say, "I'm not my father." Modi is pushing back against labels without saying so in so many words. But there's a very interesting power play, silent, sometimes spoken on between the RSS and Modi. Now, on the one hand, Vajpayee, for example, the RSS had a veto power over the Vajpayee cabinet. If you remember,
Yes,
Jaswant
yes,
Singh as choice for finance minister in and so on. But if you can come out of these pictures, please, if you look at the relationship between the Prime Minister and the RSS today, you've had a phase of tension when JP Nadda tried to say we don't need the RSS. You had a certain result. Today, again, you have this quiet tussle over who will be the next BJP president. But on the other hand, perhaps no prime minister has done more for the RSS agenda than Modi. So, how do you read this relationship?
Yeah, I mean, Modi and RSS, that's a conundrum which I think we can only make guesses about it. But even when we speak about the RSS, Barkha, I mean, Modi, it's not that Modi is completely moved away from the RSS, because factional there is a factional game inside the RSS. We always hear that there is one faction which may not be favorably disposed to Modi. There's another faction which Modi, being an insider, knows how to control the other side of the RSS. So he has been that kind of a balance that he needs to govern, with the ideological master being there, is very different. And the RSS was more doctrinaire when they did not have power. And Vajpayee was the first BJP prime minister. So Vajpayee was still, trying to figure out what to do when the RSS applies pressure on him. In fact, I remember those covers that used to be magazine covers every 2 years, saying that Vajpayee is going to resign because he's unable to suffer the RSS. But Vajpayee also had a fragility of the coalition to take care of. He had the fragility of and the pressure of the ideological master to sort of also counter. So he was trying to very deftly negotiate the two, because that was the times. And if you look at the 25 years of India, that 25 years was an era of coalition in India, where we governed with 13-party coalitions, 16-party coalitions. So it was a very different era. And
Who do you believe has the last word in this equation? For example, the choice of the BJP president. My sense is that Modi will not accept somebody he's opposed to, no matter how many names the RSS sends. Of course, the RSS will have a say, but my sense is the last word remains with Modi, as long as he remains electorally powerful. The last word will remain with the prime minister.
Which I think Modi, the last word is with Modi. But I think the way Modi puts across his point of view to the RSS is, in my understanding, is very different. He wouldn't say categorically, just get off my table. I'm not going to do what you want. So, for instance, when, say, a chief minister has to be picked, I'm giving you a hypothetical situation. Say the Rajasthan chief minister had to be picked, and RSS is saying that an ex-person has to be made the chief minister. Why don't you look into it? So Modi would probably go back to them and say, yes, we will look at something that you want, but you tell me what is the caste that has to be placated, or who has to be given representation, and leave the name to me. So he would agree to the RSS on principle. He would say, okay, a Brahmin should be made a chief minister in Rajasthan. If that is exactly what the RSS is trying to say, then Modi will say, okay, you have said you want a Brahmin. Leave that Brahmin. Who that Brahmin should be will be my choice. So there is a principle and there is a person. The person will always be Modi's choice. The principle may largely be that of the RSS, but even there, Barkha, I think the pushback has been zabardast. In fact, and also the RSS, the way Modi in the first term, I see a difference between the first term, second term, and the beginning of the third term. The first term, Modi, I think, filled up a lot of these public sector units, the directorships, bank directorships, and all that, with a lot of RSS people. And once they got used to power in the second term, I think he took greater control and wanted professional management. And in the third term, when the RSS seems to have, played at least a section of the RSS seems to have played a bit of mischief in the 24 elections, he is trying to play an entirely different game. So Modi is evolving continuously. Modi is not like Vajpayee. There is a blue book and I go by this or I don't go by this.
Let's talk about this third term. Arguably, the third term is the only term where the uh, the sort of completely unchallenged power of Modi was somewhat contained after the 2024 Lok Sabha election. The RSS asserted itself by not fully campaigning. There was a reaction to JP Nadda saying, we don't need the RSS. We are, I mean, I'm summarizing, but that's effectively what he said. And then they had to retract from that position. And then there were a series of assembly election wins after everybody had said, oh, this is the beginning of the end of Modi. Now, in his third term, technically, he is leading a coalition government.
Yeah,
Technically, this is a coalition government.
yes,
But
yes.
you don't see it as that. You see that as a technicality. Why? Because, I mean, what is different about this coalition government and previous coalition governments?
No, that's a very interesting question, Barkha, because I mean, I have seen, I have seen how the reach out happens to people who are in the NDA. The management is very different. The management of the ally is extremely different. There is probably appeasement and also a danda in hand. You don't know the internal
Yeah,
dynamics
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
but the management, from what little I have seen, is extremely good. For instance, I will not name those allies. A particular ally may be given a fantastic ministry and all of that, but the entire control of the ministry may be with the PMO. So, in the public eye, you are big, but you're not able to do anything at all. And then you are not able to, if a political party is in power, say part of the coalition, the expectation of the people in the constituency or in their states also go up, because they think they're making a hell of a lot of money, let them distribute it. That's the kind of patronage and pelf system that works in Indian politics. So, but the person who has been given the biggest ministry is not able to dispense that patronage and pelf, because he's not able to make money, because the levers of control are elsewhere. But he also cannot say that, because it is akin to saying that, oh, I am powerless. And no politician will want to admit to being powerless. So the management of Modi, of his colleagues and allies, I think is very, very different. And it's smart, I would say.
You said that Modi has not been ideologically doctrinaire. He has evolved. He's been pragmatic when needed, and it's quite interesting because on the one hand, the Gujarat Chief Minister Modi had a certain Pakistan policy, but at
Yeah.
least till I would say, the surgical strikes of 2016. The Prime Minister Modi did try to make peace
Yes,
with Pakistan. He
absolutely.
called the SARC leaders for his swearing in. He went to meet Nawaz Sharif in Pakistan. So that's one example of how Modi was not attached to a certain set pre-expected ideology. But he has taken some ideological decisions that are important to the Sangh. The abrogation of 370, I would say, in fact, for me, tops the list, right? And so you can't totally, the Ram Mandir, for example, though the decision came from the Supreme Court, but the point is on his watch, and you're seeing those images there, that there has been movement on that. And now it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Uniform Civil Code. My question to you is, how much of Modi's 3 terms have been ideology? How much of it have been sort of a centrist governance, and how much of it has been right wing? Because he also has to manage his far right base. For some of
Yeah,
whom, if you see social media, he's not right wing enough.
that's right. No, that's a very, very tough question. Putting a percentage on how he
No, no,
is
I don't
swung.
mean percentages. How do you see
Yes,
the
you're correct.
patterns? Yeah,
No, no, the pattern is, it's he has been very, very flexible, I would say. See, when it's an election season, he
yeah.
never speaks about the a Muslim as the other during a non-election season. He's never done that. But during
Hmm.
an election, he will sort of pick a certain kind of phrase to build a kind of, the same old kind
Hmm.
of. The old Modi comes up. He calls them something. He says something which sort of signals to his core base, and they still are. They're happy that Modi has still not moved away entirely. So it is about, that emotional thing that he plays
So
during
in a way, you're
elections.
seeing the old flashes of the old Modi in campaign season, and then
Yes,
between elections, you don't see that Modi.
No, I mean, I think it's once the election is over, he is trying to focus on governance. He wants his GDP growth rate, at a certain level. He wants the inflation to go down. He wants oil from Russia. He wants to embrace Trump, and he wants to go to European Union and cut a deal. So he is pragmatic then. But then there is also, see, elections which the Congress does not seem to understand. It is not reason that wins elections, it's emotion that wins elections. So in the election build up, Modi very intelligently picks on a few things, and also not to upset the RSS. It's not just the RSS. See, RSS has created a certain expectation in the masses that vote for the BJP. So when Modi is trying to say negotiate or handle or whatever any issue like 370 or Ram Mandir or whatever, he is doing it, not to placate the RSS more, but the base directly. So if you look at what happened during the Ayodhya, Prana Pratishthan, see, there was no VHP, there was no RSS. Modi was doing, playing the role of a priest there, doing the Prana Pratishthan. So Modi is one Indira Gandhi, directly connected with his base. So he has eliminated intermediaries, is what I feel, in 11 years. So he does not need the crutches of the intermediaries. It could be the party organization, or it could be the RSS. Largely speaking, I'm not saying entirely. And the election results, you raised a very interesting question. Is he weaker now? But I will argue it from the other side.
I mean, not
I will,
weaker. He is
yeah,
still one of India's strongest prime minister. I am saying,
absolutely.
is he less powerful than he was in 2023? That's all. He's a very,
No,
very, very strong political brand. He remains India's most dominant political brand. He remains arguably perhaps one of the strongest prime ministers we've seen, at least in my adult life, because I was a child in
yes.
the Indira years. I have not seen such a strong prime
Same
minister.
here. We are both
Yeah,
70s
same
children. So,
vintage,
yeah.
same vintage. So I don't think he's weaker, but when the Lok Sabha result happened, there was a sense of Modi being contained. Has he been
Yeah.
contained? After
No,
the
but
assembly election wins, I don't think that. I don't think that.
no, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think he was contained. Basically, because the argument that I would like to make is that he was liberated. There is no indebtedness now, Barkha. If you're indebted, you have to keep looking back and saying, okay, you did this for me, take this. Okay, I'll concede because you did this for me. So there is no indebtedness. And all the 240, in fact, I remember somebody telling me at that point when the election results came that all 240 seats now belong to Modi. Now the RSS cannot stake claim to that 240. And whatever else is his deft electoral management and coalition building. So if a prime minister on his own merit, on his own strength is getting you 240 seats, then I'm sure he has every right to think that he's far more powerful than an RSS, because an RSS, with all its strength, what was it able to give a Vajpayee? What was it able to give in 2014? It was just marginally higher than 272. But 2019 was the election, like the 1971 election of Indira Gandhi, where Modi showed that it was him and his policy and the strikes across the border that actually created the new Modi. And Modi is far more, I think, in terms of emotion, he is far more in control, because Indira Gandhi, had a lot of personality issues. Modi may have a lot of personality issues too, but in terms of emotional vulnerability, Modi is kind of quote unquote ruthless. Indira Gandhi still had to negotiate with her father's image, Gandhi's image, aunties troubling her. There was a family to handle, the son creating trouble. Modi has none of that. So Modi is freer. Modi is more liberated after the 24 elections because he's not indebted to anybody. He can claim all 240 is his strength. He has delivered all 240. And after that statement of JP Nadda that the BJP does not need the RSS anymore. So, I think he's far more, he's in a completely different position now.
Okay, before we close, you said Modi has evolved. The Modi the Modi who became prime minister in 2014 is not the prime minister of 2025. If one thing looked to you, you had to pick up one thing in that evolution, what might that be?
I mean, accommodation, Barkha, clearly. Look at the kind of delegations that went out recently. We have debated on your show quite
Yeah.
often about the accommodation. See, Modi
Yeah.
is now trying to become a pan-India figure and trying to develop. I mean, his aim. I don't know if he will be successful or if he's already successful. That's not for us to judge. It's for a future historian to look at. But there is a greater accommodation, and that accommodate through that it could be Sharad Pawar, a Devegowda who never crossed the secular line is on his side today. Sharad Pawar. Then if you look at one branch of the Karunanidhi family is on his side. There is, and Shashi Tharoor, an articulate person, Salman Khurshid. I mean, a lot of this kind of a broad consensus building symbolically, accommodation. I think that Modi, that inflexible Modi does not exist anymore. Modi is adapting, building that kind of broader plank, and I think that is about legacy building also. So he knows that Indira Gandhi was exactly referred to all that she was called in between 69 and 77, whatever
Yeah.
that was. When she was, she was completely sort of blown up by her critics. She was called all kinds of things. But then between 80, when she comes back to power, and 84, in fact, I quote Salman Rushdie in my book. In his
Hmm.
introduction to Tariq Ali's book on the Nehru dynasty, he writes beautifully. And he says, Western powers needed to sort of forget the excesses of the emergency and resurrect a stable power in South Asia, and therefore they forgot all the sins of the emergency. So Modi
Hmm.
knows that Godhra and the sins of Godhra, or whatever else that the liberal, system attributes to him, will all be overlooked if he builds that kind of a broader plank and creates an accommodation. So I think that is the new Modi.
All right, Sugata, it's endlessly fascinating to talk to you, but we'll leave it there. Sugata Srinvasraju has a fascinating new book just out, The Conscience Network, looking at the diaspora's resistance, as it were, to Indira Gandhi's emergency years. This has been a fascinating conversation. Do pick up a copy of Sugata's book if you haven't already. Thank you so much and look forward to talking to you again. Take care.
Thank you very much, Barkha. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.